begin. All right. Good Tuesday morning to everybody, and welcome to English 2131. This is American Lit. I will be your instructor slash professor for the next 15 weeks. My name is Mr. Patrick Wilson, and the purpose of this video really is to sort of just, as you can tell, you could probably see your Blackboard screen, or what should look like your Blackboard screen for the class, just to give you sort of an overview of the course, of what's going to happen during um, Modular 1, at least for this week anyway. Do some high notes with the syllabus, talk a little bit about the textbook, and try to make this thing kind of brief, because I'm thinking by the time you're up to 2131, so this is really, sort of like that sophomore level college English course, because we're getting into the 2100s now, as it relates to the course number. You probably had some online courses at some point. You might have had 1101, 1102 prior to this course. So you may already know how to, work your way around Blackboard. If this is your first time, then this will probably be helpful to you. But it had, if you've taken online before, they're pretty much set up the same in most instances. So you shouldn't have a lot of trouble manipulating. You can't really screw it up. If you can, get onto any social media using any kind of device, then you can, maneuver around, navigate around Blackboard. So the first thing that you probably need to do, if you haven't, is you need to click on the Welcome Stingray. That's where you're going to find your simple syllabus. That's where you're going to find the weighted categories and percentages for your overall grade. If you need help with Blackboard, there's some information here that will help you as it relates to some LibGuides and navigating Blackboard Ultra with some videos. If you need a refresher, you will need to get the Respondus lockdown browser. And if you go here, it will tell you how to go about downloading it, which one you would need. You definitely need that before you take any kind of quizzes or exams in this class, because without it, you're not going to be able to be successful and complete those. We do have a attendance verification quiz. Basically, want you to verify that you are in the course, that you did read, the syllabus that we're going to go over by 6 p.m. this Thursday. There's also another assignment that goes with the lesson 1 this week, and we kind of briefly look at that. This is your textbook information. There is a physical textbook that you will need to get. It's a Norton anthology. I have a shorter 9th edition. I think the newer edition's the 10th edition. That's fine to use if you can find that cheaper. You don't necessarily have to go through the bookstore. I give you the ISBN number. If it's easier to go through, cheaper to go through Amazon or something of that nature, you're more than welcome to go that route with it. But you will need a 2-volume set. It's a volume A and a volume B of Norton's Anthology of American Literature. There's a picture of it in your syllabus. I think next year they're going to an 11th edition. So if you see 11th edition, I don't think the 11th one is out. I think really the difference between the 9th and the 10th is going to be the color of what the front and the back looks like. And there might be additional stories and stuff in one that's not in the other. If that's the case, if need be, I can see if I can find some of those. If they're listed down as readings and you have the 9th edition, but the story and stuff's really in the 10th, I can see if I can find a copy that we can upload. But I think when I made up the scheduling, I pretty much picked stuff that was both in the 9th and the 10th. So in case there was that issue. There's tutoring resources. I do have on the syllabus my office hours and tutoring hours, both in person and virtual. And if it's virtual, it's going to be sort of like through Teams. Either one. I mean, if you live in Camden and you're closer, we can always meet in the library or one of my classrooms up here. If you want to meet through Teams, we can do that. We just need to probably schedule to make it work in both of our schedules because I do have 5 other classes besides this one. So I'm pretty busy Monday through Thursday. So, but mainly my schedule is going to be Monday through Thursday, 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. The college and I are both off Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That doesn't mean you can't email over the weekend. I will answer emails. It may not be right away or quickly as they would if it was Monday through Thursday. But if you have like a draft for an essay or a quick question, you can expect maybe an email within a day or two. I mean, obviously, if you send something, you will get an answer back to it. It just may be a little bit longer because it is my time off. It is the weekend. And the same will apply with holidays. The best time really to reach me would be Monday through Thursday, preferably through email since I pretty much here at the Camden campus, 10-hour days. So if you email me and if I'm not really busy or traveling or teaching another class or dealing with another online deal, depending on the length and complexity of the question, you probably will get something back within a 10 or 15-minute period. If it's something a little bit longer or something I have to dig or search or think about, if it's looking at an essay draft or something, that it's probably going to be, a little bit longer before I can do a turnaround. But you will, like I said, if you email me, you will get an answer. We do have tutor.com. Some of you might have used that in previous classes, maybe for college algebra or maybe for another English class. You do have 10 hours, 10 free hours. So use them wisely because after you exhaust those 10 hours, it's going to probably force you to charge or force you to pay them. And I really don't know how expensive they are after you exhaust those 10 hours. But again, you may not want to, blow all that within the first couple of weeks. So you may want to use it sparingly as it gets closer to maybe major papers or the research paper that's going to be happening toward the end. You might want to use it then. There's also some information here about student success and Stingray success. So you might want to review those. We do have the library and live chat that's going to be very helpful when it comes to finding secondary academic scholarly sources for research-based projects. So you might want to look at that. Before I really dig into the syllabus, we do have some course notes writing about literature that you might want to look at. There's some resources here. This will be helpful. MLA 9 guide, basically how you want to set up your essays and how you want to possibly respond as it relates to, picking out quotations and paraphrasing and summarizing. There's a certain way to do that with MLA 9 that you should have remembered and learned from 1101 and 1102 English. So the formatting, the MLA 9 essay formatting, hasn't really changed. It's still the same from 1101, 1102. Hopefully you were doing MLA 9 formatting. There's free templates on your Microsoft Word app. Whether you're using a desktop version or a cloud version, you can find free templates there. I would, look back at how to, write about literature, poetry, drama, that type stuff, because that's going to come back. So basically, really what this class, we look at American literature. It's really a survey. It's like combining American Lit 1, American Lit 2 at most universities. So we're looking at a big wide range of stuff. So we have to be picky and selective as professors of what we cover just because we only have 15 weeks. And we, generally when you look up at Norton Anthology, it comes in like 5 or 6 volumes. We're only looking at A and B. We're not going through like A, B, C, D, and E, just because we don't have the time or the scope to do that. So we're going to cover good information good bit of stories, poems, dramas, essays, historical documents, fictional documents, maybe non-fictional stuff. So I mean, we're going to cover a good bit in 15 weeks. So that's why the class moves. I mean, we are going to be moving at a pretty quick pace. So hopefully time management, you have good time management skills. Procrastination is not your tag team partner, because we just don't have time to just drag on, because nothing would get done if we just dragged on. So you definitely want to look at your literature resources here, literary terms, figurative devices, structural elements of fiction, American literary periods. It's a lot of stuff that you probably know from maybe some history courses and some previous English courses. I'm sure you probably taken some American Lit courses in high school. Some of you maybe right now do enrollment students, and this could be a little bit more fresher in your mind. But usually, U.S. history and American history sort of go hand in hand with some of the literature that we're going to look at and study. When you look down, again, you're going to see probably only Modular 1 open up. As we go through the semester, these other modulars obviously will open up on your part. Really, the first 3 weeks are built into, as I have here, Lesson 1, activities, August 17th through the 20th. Week 2, which would be Lesson 2, August 24th through the 27th. And then Lesson 3 would be Week 3, August 31st through 3, which would be September 3rd. So the Modular 1 covers especially the first 3 weeks of the semester. So you can kind of work week by week if you like, if that's helpful to you. If you don't want to feel like you're overwhelmed, I would probably go that route, especially if you got other classes, if you got other commitments like kids and work. You might want to pace yourself until you can kind of get used to the whole online scheduling and whatever else is going on with some of your other classes. If you feel confident and you kind of know what you're doing, then you can kind of move ahead. You don't have to necessarily wait until the deadline for Lesson 1 to start Lesson 2, especially when it comes to the reading. We will be reading a good bit. Sorry to tell you that, but we will be reading a good chunk of stuff. And, it could be anywhere from 30 pages a week to nearly 100 pages a week. So if you're not really a fast reader, or it takes you a while to kind of comprehend some of this stuff, I would probably start at least on the readings early enough so you have time to go back if you need to reread certain sections, or if the piece is really short, like poetry and that type stuff, you can kind of read it multiple times. But you want to give yourself enough time that you can digest the literature, ask any questions that you may have, and then tackle the assignments, because there's going to be some, besides the reading every week, there's going to be something, 1, maybe 2 items as it relates to assignments that are going to be due weekly. And you don't want to get behind on, 1, you don't want to get behind on the reading. 2, you don't want to get behind on the assignments, because that's where you're going to get your grade from. So generally, there's going to be stuff due. The college wants us not to set up due dates for Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. So you won't have anything due over the weekends. Most of my deadlines, I think, happen Thursday by 6 p.m. They could happen earlier in the week, but it's always going to have sort of like it's going to be between Monday and Thursday, and it's probably going to be before 6 p.m. of that particular day. So you can kind of use the weekends to regroup, to read ahead, to go back and maybe get caught up with some of the reading, to get caught up or, get ahead in other classes. But that's how we're going to sort of roll with the deadlines. That leaves up in your weekends that you don't have to worry about. Is there something due on a Saturday at midnight, or is there something due at 11 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, or whatever the case may be? So that should be helpful. And if you look here, it gives you various things, modular introduction and goals. This pretty much like weeks 1 through 3, where, you're basically going to discover and discuss American literature from the beginnings to the 1700 and 1700 to 1820. So again, we're looking at a good chunk of years there. And if you look at some of these, it talks about how to submit an assignment, discussion board, there's a timeline. This is the lessons that you really want to look at. This is the readings for this particular week. So we're looking at a good bit of the readings. We're looking at Native American oral literature and trickster tales. We're looking at some of the, at least one of the letters from Christopher Columbus from the February 15th, 1493. And then we're looking at a piece, John Smith, from A Description of New England. So again, depending on your version of Norton Anthology, you're going to find these in Volume A, and you need to either look at the table of contents for the page number or the index, because both, the short 9 edition and the 10th edition of Volume A will have all this stuff in it. You may be able to find some copies online, as you wait to get your book, but this is what we're reading this week. If you look, you're going to have a quiz this week as well. And quizzes are going to be timed. I'm going to go ahead and let y'all know that. It's going to be about 30 minutes for these quizzes. It shouldn't, if you read the work for this week, and this covers the introduction aspect of your textbook of Norton Anthology, beginnings to the 1820. Again, look at your table of contents and your index for the page numbers. If you read the material and you sort of take your own notes on the material, then it really shouldn't take you 30 minutes to do this particular quiz, because I think it may only be like 10 questions, 10 or 15 questions. And for the most part, I think they're multiple choice. So had this been an in-person class, you probably wouldn't even have 30 minutes. You'd probably have closer to 10 or 15, because really these are things that are supposed to be, sort of like pop quizzes. Did you really do the reading for the week? Or did you not do the reading for the week? So you do have a quiz. You do need to get the Respondus program, because without it, you're not going to be able to take that quiz, and it's due by 6 o'clock this Thursday. Lesson 2, again, once you feel confident, you can start moving on. There's a discussion post for that. Lesson 3, there is some additional information. There might be another quiz. There's a critical paper, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through the semester. And you can click and kind of look. I give you a few options of what you need to do with this critical paper. But we will definitely start talking a little bit more about this. Probably, week 2, definitely in week 3. Really, the key thing is get your books and just stay on top of the reading and remember your deadlines. You got a calendar here. It's going to tell you the deadlines. If you look in your syllabus, there's a checklist that deals with deadlines. So you just need to kind of keep up the reading. Yes, it's an intense reading course. Like I said, it's a sophomore level college level English course. So you expect that. It's a little bit of a higher level than 1101 and 1102. When you get into like English 3000 or English 4000, now you're getting into like junior and senior level college English classes. You're going to expect to write more, longer papers, and have more readings to do on a weekly basis. So just be aware of that if you decide to transfer or take additional English courses that are higher than 2000 levels. There's going to be more work involved as it relates to the readings and stuff. So this is the weighted categories. Quizzes, discussions, low stake items are going to be 20% of your grade. Exams, you got 2, midterm and a final. Collectively, they're worth 35% of your grade. Critical papers are 20% of your grade. Those are like sort of the shorter essays. The research paper is going to be 25%. They all equal up to 100. If time allows, I will try to offer maybe several extra credit opportunities to help cushion your grade, or maybe pull up an essay grade or a quiz grade here or there. Um, but I can't guarantee that, just because, like I said, I got 5 other classes. They got stuff coming in, just like you, essays, papers. They got readings, quizzes, and I may not have time within the 15 weeks to offer a good bit of extra credit. You just kind of have to realize that at the college level, some instructors may offer extra credit, and then some instructors may never offer any extra credit. It all kind of depends on their, really their behavior with it, or their thinking behind it. I try to do at least maybe one or two if possible. I usually never go more than three, just because with extra credit, they think they have, multiple lives, like a video game. It's like Mario, right? If I get this special mushroom, I get a one up. So I'm gonna, or if I collect enough coins, I can get another life. Um, so they sort of hang on that as being lifelines, or if he's going to offer 3 extra credit opportunities, that means I can really screw up on 3 assignments beforehand, and then those 3 extra credit can kind of save my butt as it gets closer to November. And that's really not how we should look at extra credit, because in the real world, there's really not such thing as extra credit, meaning you still got to pay your bills on time. You're not getting any extra credit not to pay your cell phone. You're not getting any extra credit not to pay that grocery bill, or the rent, or the car note. So again, if I can offer it, I will let you know through announcements and emails. It'll probably be halfway through the semester before I can know, honestly, if I could do that, but we will see. So what I would suggest is, like I said, have good time management skills, read ahead if you can, possibly work on some of the assignments ahead, but don't hesitate not to ask. The problem is some students will work too far ahead. We're still on level, or week 1, and they want to be in lesson 3, which is basically 2 weeks from now. And they might have got lesson 1 right, but lesson 2 wasn't so great. And then the assignment in lesson 3, they're really, screwing up. So now they got 2 bad grades because they went too far ahead and didn't ask any questions. So be mindful of that, pace yourself. If you're going to need help or not on some of these assignments as you read through some of them. I wouldn't try to, I want to be 3 weeks ahead because I got 5 other classes that I'm taking, or whatever the case may be. That's fine if you know what you're doing, but if you don't know what you're doing, and I'm having to go back and delete stuff because you're getting 29s on it, it's going to be frustrating on you, because now you got to go back and double work. It's going to be frustrating on me because now I have to go back and double grade and delete, and it's just a pain. It's a pain on both sides. So again, I would only go ahead with assignments, lesson 2, lesson 3, if you really understand what you need to do. Otherwise, you can read the weekly readings ahead all day long. I would actually encourage that. Like, if you finish the readings for this week tomorrow, or by the end of the week, I would go ahead and get started on lesson 2 and possibly lesson 3 readings. That way you're not having to do maybe a good chunk of reading when you have to do a good chunk of college algebra, when you have to do a good chunk of, psychology reading, and then you got discussion boards and quizzes and other papers, and you got kids you got to take to school and help with the homework, and you got to go to work in the evening and cook and all that stuff. So work smarter, don't work harder is the motto that I like to use. All right, so I'm going to briefly look at the simple syllabus, because again, I'm not going to insult your intelligence. I think by the time you get to the 2130, you know how to read. So we're just going to sort of hit the high notes. The syllabus will stay open, or stay up, until really the last week of the semester. So you can always refer back to it. And again, this is it's 100% online, so weekly participation is required. And really what I mean by that is, do your work, Obviously, ask questions when you need it, but submit stuff in on time. Now, you don't have to wait until a deadline. You can turn stuff in earlier if need be. So the course description emphasizes American literature as a reflection of cultural and ideas. A survey of important works in American literature includes a variety of literary genres: short stories, poems, drama, nonfiction, and novels. We're going to look at some novels, maybe possibly some novellas, or at least sections on some of them. Topics include literature and culture, essential themes and ideas, literature and history, and research skills. So obviously, to be able to take this class, you really needed to have a C or higher in 1101 and 1102, because you're going to be using those skills that you should have learned in this classes in this particular class. So this is the 2-box set. And again, if you use that ISBN number, you may be able to find it a lot cheaper. Amazon, Norton, you can actually go to the Norton anthology website. They may have it for cheaper. You can, if you can find it for used, even better, maybe. But you need either the 9th or the 10th. I say possibly the 11th, but I think last time I checked, 11th's not really going to be available until this time next year. So if they're trying to sell you one of those, you're going to be waiting a very long time before you get that book. So you can't go wrong with the 9th or the 10th edition, though. Like I said, the only difference is probably going to be the coloring, and there might be additional stories added into the 10th that were not in the 9th. And what I did was I based most of the readings on my 9th edition, and I sort of cross-referenced that with the 10th. So I know that most of the readings, if not all, I'm pretty sure they're all, that are covered in this class are in both editions without any issues. Again, this is some information about the Lockdown browser. If you had online courses in the past for Coastal Pines, then you know what the Respondus browser is and what it does. But if you're new to an online course, or if you kind of need a refresher, there's hyperlinks you can kind of click on and take you to various sites that you can read on. But you definitely need it to be able to take quizzes and to take exams. Now, I say quizzes are basically 30 minutes. They are. The exams will probably be a little bit longer than 30 minutes, anywhere from 60 minutes to 90 minutes, just because the exams cover a good bit of information. So those would be a little bit longer, but the quizzes are really brief. I mean, they're probably less than 20 questions in most quizzes. Most quizzes are probably, 10 questions, 10 or 15. I think there's a few questions or quizzes that are only 8 questions. So it really checks to see if you did the reading for the week. So, and if you did, and you're able to answer the questions to the best of your ability, it really should be an easy, I wouldn't say an easy A, because they are kind of challenging if you didn't do the reading. But I mean, if you did the reading, then it should be, a pretty easy grade, good grade that you can, collect. Especially if, maybe writing isn't your forte when it comes to essays and stuff. This is my information. That's my office number. Again, I live in Brunswick, but I work at the Camden County Coastal Pines campus. My office is 1214. It's upstairs. My office hours will be Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Then I have a few more Monday and Wednesday in the afternoon, 3:30 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. And then Tuesday, Thursday from 4 to 5. Tutoring, I have some in-person tutoring Monday and Thursday, 12:30 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. And then Tuesday and Thursday, I do more of sort of like a virtual tutoring session, more or less using Teams, and that would be about 12:30 to 2 p.m. Of course, we can manipulate these hours around a little bit. I mean, some of them work around my work schedule and my other teaching commitments. But if something doesn't necessarily work in your schedule, we can possibly, you need to email me or call me, and we can sort of set up a schedule maybe that works for both of us. Course learning outcomes, again, you can kind of read through these. I'm not going to sit here and waste time reading stuff that you can read on your own. Um, we talked about the grades. We go in a 10-point increment, meaning 90 to 100 is an A, 80 to an 89 is a B, 70 to 79 is a C. Most to really receive official credit for this course, you need to have a C or higher. So you probably want to avoid D's and F's for final grades. Um, I do round, meaning toward the end of the semester, if you had a, let's say, a 69.4, then I'm going to round down to 69. But let's say you have an 87.6, then I'll round that up to an 88. So we'll, round to the next whole number. It just makes life a little easier for me and on the Blackboard. But that's pretty much how you're going to be graded. We will talk a little bit more about plagiarism and falsification and cheating and using AI. You've heard all this stuff from the last two English classes that you've taken. It's nothing new. You probably heard about it, K through 12th grade. The first offense for cheating, plagiarizing, or using AI, you get a 0 on that assignment. I'm going to have the proof. I'm going to give you the proof. We can talk about it. If you want to elevate it to the next level, that's fine. That's your right. We can do that. But just know if I got the proof, it's probably going to be a lot harder for you to defend your actions when I have all the proof on my side and I basically showed you what was going to happen and showed you why you got the 0 on it. If you're foolish enough, or really if you're stupid enough to cheat, plagiarize, or use AI again, then you're just going to fail the class. And then we're going to have to both fill out some additional paperwork, and then we're going to go to Waycross at the main campus, and there's going to be a panel of the president, vice president, deans, and other teachers and stuff that you may have. And you can defend your case. I'm going to have the proof to defend mine. And then they're going to put the microscope on you and all your other classes because they're going to be like, well, he cheated in the English class. Is he cheating in math? Is he cheating in psychology? Is he cheating in this class? So they're going to look at your other grades and see, hey, are they using AI? Are they buying a paper? Are they hiring somebody to do the work? Which is kind of the reason why we had to have this ProctorU stuff, because people have done, hired ghostwriters or ghost students to come, out of state and basically take their coursework. They pay them to get good grades for them. And of course that sucks because that's why we have to do all these, video, two camera video ProctorU stuff now. Or respond. So kind of keep that in mind. Usually I do always have to make an example and call somebody out. Every semester in one of my classes, somebody gets busted it's mainly for AI usage now, because that's rampant. If you can find an AI program, we can find an AI program. I check for AI. If it definitely looks suspicious, I got a program that runs it through about 10 different AI known writing platforms. So if you're using it, it's going to catch it within like 2 or 3 seconds. So I would just say you can use AI to brainstorm. You can use AI to help you proofread and edit, parts of your paper, because I know Grammarly has AI on it, so you want to be careful of that. But don't have AI write, a 7-page paper and you just copy and paste it and not be smart enough to go back and proofread your work, because you don't even know what's in that paper. And, there's a couple of ways that we can go about, I can always call you in and say, hey, if you really wrote this paper, give me a 25-minute presentation and we will talk about the paper, and I'll give you, an exam of 30 questions that come from that paper. So, we can go that route if it becomes a problem. Otherwise, you're just going to keep racking up zeros and possibly failing the course. Especially if you do 2 or more offenses. Really, we cut you off at 2. The college and the policy don't care about the reasoning or excuses. You cheated, you bought a paper, you used AI, whatever the case may be. And then the powers that be, basically, it's in their hands. They decide whether they want to bar you for a couple semesters, a year, or just tell you never to come back here. So that stuff sticks on your transcript. It will ruin your GPA, and it will have some negative effects of you getting into other colleges, whether online, in-state, private, public, out of the country. So think before you start doing some of this stuff, because it will come back to bite you in the ass, so to speak, down the road. Um, let's see. Copyright notices, you can kind of look at this. Students with disabilities, you can kind of go through some of this, the falsification of records and cheating, different tutoring and web services. We talked about that, library services. Since you're an online course, you probably don't need to know so much about campus security, but if you are going to like a hybrid course or an in-person course, you may want to jot down some of these numbers depending on if you're going to, let's say, Hazelhurst or Golden Isles or, Jessup, something of that nature. Equal opportunity statement, there's some information about human resources. This is sort of our schedule for the 15 weeks. So we basically, start here August 17th, and we go up to about December 9th, I believe. So it's give or take, it's the whole month of September, a whole month of October. That's 2 months. You can say the whole month of November, but we do have Thanksgiving break at some point. So that's 3. So it's almost 4 months when you take about the 2 weeks we have in December and really the 2 weeks that we have in August. So it's a good solid 3 months if nothing else. So this is sort of the reading that we're going to cover. This is your due date schedule. This is going to tell you when stuff is due. For the most part, this stuff is set in stone. If something happens with it, we do have a subject to change with the course syllabus and stuff like this. I won't probably add more to it, but I probably won't take away anything. If anything, I might move stuff around because it'd be a benefit to you and a benefit to me as it relates to, hey, I got 5 other classes and I got grades piling up on me. But I try to give you enough that sort of you would get a flavor of, the survey of American literature because it's vast. If you plan on at some point to take our world literature course, or we're trying to get a Brit Lit going, you will notice how vast those courses are too, because there's just so much. There's so many decades, there's so many centuries that we cover here that it's hard to get everything in effectively in 15 weeks. So, but I'm glad that you are a part of the class. I will say, I think right now, because this was sort of a late class that they added, I think there's only maybe 5 or 6 students. There's still time, I guess, for an add drop period. So there could be more students as we go through the rest of the week. It looks like right now, I haven't really got any indications that we are at risk of being dropped because of enrollment. But just kind of keep that in mind. There is a possibility if they feel like enrollment for this class isn't where it needs to be, they may give you an email and say that, hey, we may have to drop this class. And they may give you another option to, let's say, if somebody else is teaching an American Lit class online, and it has a little bit more students in it, they may give you an option, hey, do you want to squeeze into that particular class? But for right now, we're just going to assume, because it is the second day and I haven't heard anything, that we're going to keep chucking along here with week 1 and to be ready to move to week 2 next week. Make sure that you do kind of read the syllabus, because as I can tell here, and as you can tell, there's only 2 students so far that read this, and it kind of tells me who. There's a little, like I said, a little quiz that goes with it. So there's still 3 other students. Yeah, well, there's only 5 in the class, I guess, right now. So there's still 3 other students that need to read this and take that really quick, easy 100 syllabus quiz. Go ahead and start off your semester with American Lit with a really good grade, and then work your way through week 1 and do whatever the other assignment that needs to be in that quiz by 6 p.m. this Thursday. Otherwise, I'm glad that you are a part of the class. If you need any help, don't wait until the last minute to reach out. Please ask. I can do a lot more help if you ask before something is due than I can if you wait 15 minutes before something is due, or you wait 4 days after I graded your assignment. I don't know the reason why I got a 45 on this essay. Well, did you get help? Did you go to a tutor? No. Did you do tutor.com? No. Did you email me or call me? No. Did you set up any, Teams or virtual tutoring? No. You do realize you had nearly 4 weeks to write. Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, I can't help you because, I mean, you're going to have time to do some of these bigger assignments. So somebody's paying for this course. I don't think you signed up to fail to repeat because we do offer this course, I believe, yearly. So if you withdraw or fail this, this time around, you can always take it in the spring. But I'm thinking you probably want to do well the first time around because you want to get closer to graduation or transferring or whatever the case may be. So you probably want to pass it. You don't want to keep forking out money. And I'll tell you, tuition is going to probably continue to sort of go up. It seems like every fall it goes up. So if you like to fork out money to repeat stuff, I mean, knock yourself out. Me personally, things are too high as it is to have to repeat the same classes over and over again. So I try to do my best the first time around, pull up C or higher, so I can graduate on time and move on, right? And that's the purpose here. Y'all want to move on into your professional career out from your academic career. You want to start making money instead of spending a lot of money, if possible. All right, so I'm going to leave it there because I have a class I'm going to have to attend to briefly. And like I said, what I'm going to try to do if possible, and it all depends on timing, is, as we go through week 2, week 3, I'm going to try to do at least, weekly lecture videos. They probably will vary in time depending on how much I have. Most of them probably will go about a 50 or 60-minute time limit because it sort of emulates what you would have if you came in person, right? Most of my in-person classes are about 75 minutes in length. So I would probably give you at least a good full hour of a lecture video, or I could give you some shorter, smaller snippets. The problem is I don't want to necessarily overwhelm with too much videos because I think there's some videos already built in the course, but that's not to say if, we can, since we're a small class, we can get everybody's schedule together. Maybe we can kind of meet for, a brief online lecture or a brief, checkup, weekly. It don't have to necessarily be somewhere where we would have to be on Teams for the full 75 minutes, but at least we can check in, talk to each other, see where everybody's ideas and heads are in particular topics as it relates to that first critical paper coming on, that type stuff. Just kind of let me know, maybe what time would work best. For me, honestly, anything Wednesday will work. Tuesday and Thursday would pretty much work, but it'd have to be after 1 or 2. Monday would probably work, but again, it'd probably have to be after 2. So I don't know, how many are actual like due enrollment students who still have classes, or how many people have to work. So that could be the whole deal that's problematic. But maybe we can do, if you wanted to meet, maybe we could meet up at something at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon for, 15, 20, 30 minutes possible. Again, it doesn't have to be necessarily really lengthy unless you just want it to sort of go a traditional, class time video type deal. Otherwise, I hope everybody has a good Tuesday. We're almost at the, 2 more days, and we'll be done with week 1, and we're heading into week 2. So again, don't hesitate to reach out if you need help. I'm here to help. I want to help, but I can't read minds. So if you don't let me know what's going on, I'm assuming that you know what you're doing. Until we talk again, have a blessed one and good luck with everything.